Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about how to make a Marvel slash DC superhero style short film. Back in last semester of film school, I was going to the beach with some friends. I went downstairs to get my bike, to bike over to the subway station, and then I realized my bike is gone. And not only that, the whole bike post is gone. So, I contacted the school security and basically my bike got stolen the previous night. This thing kind of sucked because I love my bike. I've been riding that around to class every day basically. Had that for over a year. You can see it in a lot of my videos and vlogs. So this planted an idea of a movie in my head. I wanted to basically make a movie dissing on the bike thief. Fast forward a few weeks, we get an assignment in our film production class and we have to make a short film. I was like, you know what? Let's make a movie about a bike thief. But I wanted to do the opposite of bicycle thieves. I wanted to do something very Hollywood, like superhero, just something super commercial almost, just for fun. So I started brainstorming, it's like, what if I make a superhero movie involving a bike thief, right? How does that work? So I decided to make a movie where this guy gets a superpower of shape-shifting his tongue, and he uses it to do whatever he wants. And in his case, he's a bike thief, so he uses it to pick the locks. And then basically things escalate in my story where he begins breaking into people's houses, and then he starts creating all these chaos in the city, and all the cops are after him. So basically I'm the director and producer and DP, and I'm just doing everything for this film, right? So the gear the school provided is the Sony FX30, super nice camera. This is like the first class where they allowed us to use that camera, so I'm really happy. Beautiful stuff, and it's similar to the camera I'm shooting this video on, the A7 IV. So I already know a lot of the basics of that camera. When it comes to making like any kind of films, even like superhero films, it doesn't matter what camera you have. Even it's supposed to be Hollywood. The movie The Creator that came out last year was basically shot on a very similar camera to the one I shot this film on, and it looks absolutely stunning. So another big aspect of making a superhero or this kind of Hollywood movie is having these crazy cool locations or just unique locations. And for me, I didn't go out of my way to rent these big places. Instead, I looked around at what I had, and I was thinking, this story, even though it's like a superhero story, it kind of is an intimate story too that could happen anywhere in this world. So I decided to film just on the grass lawn outside my apartment. I was filming at one of my friend's houses, filming on the streets of LA, and filming in like this parking lot behind my friend's house. Basically what you want to do is, for your short film, it's not a feature, right? So you want to hint at that there's a bigger world. You're just showing small snippets of what might happen. And this is super important to understand because when you have limited budget and you want to make a big movie kind of feeling, you just gotta hint at the fact that this is more than what people think. Alright, so for a cast and crew, obviously it's a somewhat of an ambitious project. So I hit up a lot of my filmmaking friends. They thought it was a cool idea, so they hopped on set to help me. And when you're like DPing and directing, it's super important to have like an assistant director who can keep track of the cast, the crew, all the logistics aspects, so you can just focus on the creative. In this film, there's this big scene inside the living room, and I spent a lot of time working on production design, and I think this is something I've focused a lot on, is just to make this really boring living room with no decoration is something interesting. And I'll make a separate video on how I did that, but basically I just PD'd the crap out of the living room, made it have its own character almost. It's like a little villain lair, if you know what I mean. And I think that's something you can do in your film, just where does your superhero or villain live, and you can build this whole story around that as well. So I set up the living room and everything before we started even filming because I wanted to save time on the day of production. And then I also bought a ton of like costumes and lights and stuff that we'll be using for later in this film, and I ordered all of that on Amazon, which I'll be able to return later. I also did a lot of test shoots, lighting tests. So on the day of filming, super early morning, I want to kind of get a bit of the golden hour. Got some of my crew. It's a very small crew in the morning actually, just because it's early, not everyone want to get up, and the scene didn't require a lot of people. We all walked over to the little street where we were gonna film, and we got all the shots we needed. It took a little bit of time for me to get into the directing headspace, but once I got in there, everything was looking great, and I was really proud of all the work we did in the morning. So after filming there, we went back inside and we were filming the scene in the living room. And basically, for some reason, I think it was the lighting changed outside, like with the sun, so it didn't look as good as what it did in the test shots, which kind of made me a little like disappointed and uncertain about this project. And honestly, with a lot of these projects, you're gonna run into moments where you start doubting yourself, right? And you're like, wait, is this really gonna be as good as I think it will turn out? But when you get to that situation, you just gotta push through, because come on, you already started this project, you gotta keep finishing. So after dinner, I met up with more of my crew in the third location, which is the house setting, and a ton of people showed up this time, and I got 2 bikes and I think 2 scooters as well to use as props in the scene where he's like stealing left and right. Super fun scene to film. The dynamic of my crew and cast was really awesome because we were all like just really close friends, and the lighting was really nice as well. It was kind of getting dark, but the FX30 had really good low light capabilities, and I was able to fix that in the color grading process, which I'll talk about later. And while we were filming that, the sun was actually going down pretty fast, so I had to limit a lot of the shots. There's 2 scenes where I had like 5 shots each, and I just did 1 shot and 1 take. A lot of times you plan a lot for these films to have options in the editing room, but once you're on set and you realize it won't work out, you just gotta adapt and basically know what the most important thing it is to film. Also, safety is super important on set. Make sure you have someone kind of watching for cars or any suspicious people nearby. I had one of my friends kind of be in charge of all that.
I'm supposed to carry all of them. Have you thought that through? Or maybe like one by one.
Yeah, go one by one.
Wait, what?
Go take 2 at a time. Action.
Yeah, MVP. What the heck?
Alright, so after that, we went to the backyard to film basically the police scene. This is a big climax confrontation scene, and this required a lot of moving pieces, right? I'll go more in depth into how I lit this whole scene in another video, but basically I got all these police lights, stuck to the roof of all these cars. We had 3 cars to make it like a little circle, and I like scouted the location to make sure how to stage it where it looks realistic and where it feels, almost like we're trapping this super hero villain guy. There's also this one big street light that was super bright, and we had to like climb on top of the roof of one of the cars to like throw a towel over it to cover it up. So while filming this, I realized the shot list wasn't as good as I thought it was, so I started coming up with a lot of shots on the spot, which actually ended up being very useful. So this scene was actually a lot of fun to film. We got all the characters and the costumes and got their props and stuff, and we started rehearsing. Rehearsal is super important, especially I feel like a lot of superhero films require choreography. Super important to keep practicing those movements before you start rolling. So we got all the movements out of the way, and then we started filming. Everything looked so good. So after filming that scene, we went over to my apartment, to this grass lawn on the outside, to film one more scene. And the actors were super into character, playing their roles very well. And this is another thing to keep in mind when directing your superheroes, supervillains. Make sure they understand their characters, their backstory, their motivation, what they want, what's in their way. Make sure they understand clearly exactly from the script. So in post, basically we all have to use Avid Media Composer, this like industry standard editing software. It's kind of hard to learn, but I had some help from my instructors and I was able to figure out the software. So I edited everything on Avid, and then I moved it into DaVinci Resolve to color grade, because you can't really color grade with Avid, I feel like. So on DaVinci Resolve, I used a lot of my previous color grades for other films. It was all like the Sony S-Log format, so it's really easy to just put it in there, adjust some things, and it looked way better than I thought it would. It had some kind of film look, kind of the teal and orange feeling to it. So I think that was super important for me to make sure The cinematography is on point. So one of the most important aspects of having these superhero films is the VFX. That is huge, and basically there's some scenes with the gunshots. I blended it in. It's not the best, but you know, I'm not a VFX artist, right? So in this film, I added some VFX of gunshots, the glare of the shots on their faces, and just a lot of really simple stuff. It's not supposed to be too noticeable. And there's also this shot of this tongue kind of transforming. I wish I'd spend more time on that, getting it better, but you know, from the time we had, the preparation, the whole duration, like, I think it turned out pretty well, and it's pretty easy to understand what's happening, I feel like. And then I added a ton of temp music, basically from like the Joker and all these inspo movies. I think that's another huge thing, to build this epicness, this grandness, and then you also build the tension and beauty. I think that goes a lot into making these like superhero style movies. So after this, we basically did a screening in our film class. I think people really enjoyed it, especially the police scene. No one really expected that. And now basically I'm gonna try to get an original score for this film, and maybe tweak a little bit of the editing, but after that I should be able to submit it to film festivals, and after that I'll be able to share it with you guys. So definitely stay tuned for that. Some of the takeaways for this video is maxing out your locations using PD, basically turning these regular locations into something really cinematic using set design and production design and lighting. Another thing is creating this tension throughout your whole film until it explodes in the last scene. I think that's kind of like a really good way to approach storytelling. It's just, it builds, right? Like, it's all storytelling, especially the superhero film. I think it's super cool if you can, you know, just build this world near your audience are just hooked the whole time. They're on their edge of the seats wondering, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen next? And number 3, the most important thing I think is to use your life as inspiration, right? I mean, just some guy stealing my bike turned into this whole film, I think just speaks to like how much potential real life has to offer you these creative ideas, and you just mix it with your other ideas and it just forms into something cool. So I hope you guys learn from my experience making a superhero / supervillain style short film, and I hope you guys are able to go make your own, because it's just so much fun. I'll see you guys in the next video, and good luck on your filmmaking endeavors. Peace out.